It's almost time. The boys are just about ready to pop some pads here later this week in Miami. We're talking Canes here as we do each and every week with a wholesome one. Edition number 169 here at the Voice of College Football. So please like the video before you get settled and get completely locked in. Please like the video. Share these videos out on social media so you can let people know that we're here right now talking Miami football live with the wholesome one. How's it going, man?
Pretty good, man. I'm a little stuffy, but we're gonna push through it and have a great live, man. A great live. I'm excited. Let's get to it.
You had a live stream last night, correct?
Yes, I had a big panel, camp prep panel of podcasters and other YouTubers and things of that nature. We all sat down and we went position by position with a breakdown of things that we expect from camp. And a little news was being broken about certain players, and I was as far as injury or things that are kind of getting kept to the vest and probably won't be public for a little bit. So I was like, "Whoa, hot tamale, man, that hurts," one of them I could say is Sam Brooks. Uh, Supposedly his turf toe is pretty severe, and he'll be out to at least halfway through the season, maybe majority of the season. So that opens it up, which explains a lot of this cross training going on with Keontre Smith as striker coming down and moving from striker over to weak side linebacker, which is where Sam Brooks plays. It just kind of it was an eye opening experience with a couple guys, and it is an unfortunate side of the game that you fight against. You kind of pray against it because injury is something that you don't see coming, but you do have to deal with it, and we'll see how the Canes respond.
This afternoon might be a good afternoon for everyone to do some binge watching. So lock it in here for an hour. Head on over to the Wholesome Ones channel directly after. You got last night's live stream if you have yet to watch that. So check out the work that they put in last night previewing fall camp for the Canes. So we've got a couple news items before we take your comments and questions. So leave them there in the live chat. You know we will take them on. Jaheim Singletary is one of the top 15 rated players in the country, according to 247 Sports, a top 5 cornerback, top 3 player in the state of Florida. He had committed to Ohio State months ago.
Yep.
I know that on our Ohio State stream each and every week, his name is brought up in the comments section because I think this is no big surprise to anybody.
Right.
Even the Ohio State writers that I have on a regular basis, they say, hey, Ohio State does well in Florida, but anytime there's a Florida commit this early, you got to keep recruiting him. It's not a big surprise if he flips. It's not a big surprise if he reopens his commitment and recruiting period. And that's exactly what happened with Jaheim Singletary. The good news for Miami, I think, in regards to a good indication possibility, is that decommit came right after his visit to campus.
Correct. I remember watching one of your Ohio lives, and one of the guys was talking about that, and then it tied into this months ago. It tied into you asking Cam about Singletary later on that week for Thursday lives, and it was like, well, we'll keep trying and swing at the bat and see what happens. And now you see what happens when you do things like that with a big time prospect. Um, at the end of the day, the biggest issue right now for Miami, these young men are going to buy into our hoopla, our hollers, bells and whistles is what a lot of people like to call it, right? The cookout, the pool party, the crib, whatever you want to call it, as far as what we're bringing to the table, right? At the end of the day, it's going to be about the football games here pretty soon. A month from tomorrow, you're going to line up and play against the best team in college football right now. Are they down in certain instances? Okay, you could probably swing that. But these young men are going to be paying very close attention to the way the University of Miami plays football this year. Are you squeaking by and barely beating some of these really subpar guys? Uh, or are we out there defeating everyone in the Coastal, excluding North Carolina by 14 plus or something like that, where it doesn't feel comfortable, but the score is 14 points, but it didn't look like 14 points if you watched the game, right? And if you go out there, you have a good showing, win, lose, or draw versus Bama, you go out there, you on a revenge tour versus UNC. Then these big time young men like a Singletary, like an Earl Little Jr., like a Dante Lucas that we'll talk about here pretty soon, whether they commit now or undecided, will take your program a lot more serious when you're out there producing on the football field. It's just that simple. We can have the best. I mean, Clemson got a day water slide, but it does all that stuff is just for you to come out and have a good time. It's going to be about playing football here real soon, and that's what I'm excited about when it comes to Miami moving forward. Is we're blessed to be in the ACC Coastal, and we haven't taken advantage of that very often, but there's a chance Miami will be on a 6, 7, 8 game win streak here even after the North Carolina game, going into a big rivalry game like Tallahassee. And you handle that. Then you got Duke after them. Who's to say Miami ain't win 9 or 10 straight games? That type of stuff is not hashtag fake momentum. It's real momentum on the football field. So, Mark, me and you can sit here and talk to a blue in the face about recruiting. It's a super exciting thing, and it has families involved and all that nice, cool stuff. Football is about to be played, and that's what I'm excited about. I know you are too, and I know a lot of our fan base is very, very excited about it because winning on the football field, but how you win on that football field is ultra important, man. I mean, heck, look at 2017. We loved it, but it was a whole bunch of duck, dive, ditch, dodge, and dodge going on in that season. So we got to go out there and get that thing going on the football field.
And when it comes to how much the winning affects the recruiting and the ultimate decision from these commits, I think we're both in the same boat based on our previous conversations that, yeah, these players they're going to be watching these games. They're going to be looking for results. And individually, who knows? Each one of them has a different commitment level. Some of them are sold out totally, regardless of what happens this fall, they're going to Miami. Right. Other ones are very, very tenuous, very sketchy, very much on the fence, and they really want to see a great football product, and then they're going to compare it to what else they see out there and some of the other teams that are offering. There's all sorts of different combinations in between as to how much the games are going to be important for that particular recruit, but we know that they have an impact. There's no doubt they have an impact, especially from a product that has a legacy brand, an image, hasn't produced in 15 to 20 years for the most part, showed some signs, had a nice bounce back last year from a horrible 2019, but still couldn't play with the best teams on the schedule.
Right.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah, we're going to see it. A lot of that stuff changes, man. A lot of that stuff changes, Mark, once you get on that football field. Yes, you have Tallahassee, and they're recruiting well, and yada, yada, yada. Once they start making football plays and on that football field, things are going to change for them also. Could be good or bad. But you could say that about everyone, because when you fall in love with what a coach can do for your young man as a parent, right, for your son, a lot of the times, like you said, there could be a big disparity between what type of commit are you? Are you a hard commit to coach so-and-so, or are you a commit to this football team? Because that's where it kind of differentiates. Because if you're just a great commit to Coach T-Rob, let's say, for example, who's the most qualified coach on our staff for the most part, right? Miami could go 9-4 and you might still come here because he's going to produce you. Because he's done it at South Carolina. He's done it at Florida, a part of some of those 4 and 8 teams in 6 and 7 kind of squads. He's been there and still produced first rounders on some down Florida, some down South Carolina teams, right? But if you are lineman so-and-so committed to the University of Miami football program, if they go out there and crap the bed versus Virginia, get embarrassed versus Bama, upset loss to Georgia Tech somewhere in there, and it's just like, I don't want to be a part of this. This is not what I want, you know? That's where you get the decommits and just like, I'm not even considering you all anymore because you're not taking it serious enough, in my opinion. That's where, and then there's like a third one where it's just like, yeah, I really love the coach. I really like the school. They're not doing so well, but I want to go be a part of the reason why they become good again. You have your Duke Johnsons and your Stacey Coley's, guys like that, where it's like, I couldn't win anywhere in the country. Or Nesta Silvera, why go to Tuscaloosa when I can make the crib great again? Those kind of young men who are bought into making things right and being part of the rebuild, embracing that rebuild, and wanting to be a part of the glue that holds this dam together. And you find that out when you're recruiting the young man. What type of person is he? What type of spirit is he? What's up with his mindset? You go watch the football games and you're like, does he flip out in the middle, or is he the guy in the middle of it pulling his team together and embracing, yeah, we're down by 10, but we ain't down yet. It's not over. We can get back up. We can keep fighting. What type of prospect are you truly bringing into your program? And that's where the building of a foundation of a great program is so important, because when you're bringing in young men who want to be a part of piecing, I want to be a block that's building this wall back together. I want to be a part of not just hop on top of the wall when it's already made. And I understand prospects who are like that. I'm not mad at a guy like Evan Neal, who's a 6'8", 400-pounder, who needed the elite of the elite strength conditioning to turn into the big-time left tackle that everyone knows he could be. So he chose Alabama as opposed to going to a program that's rebuilding, because he could turn into Navon Donaldson 2.0 if he don't get it together, because his strength and conditioning was that bad. Okay. What happens when you build a foundation and you stack class on top of class on top of class with that type of mindset? Now you're talking about year 4 and year 5, a program that's ready to hop on the field and play like it's a national championship every single game. And that's where you get guys like Coach Urban Meyer, like Coach Nick Saban, like Coach Dabo Sweeney. That those were yes, they were highly sought after recruits, but they surrounded themselves with coaches of that mindset, and had them go out and recruit the players who wanted to be a part of that mindset, that we want to build this unbreakable dam. And that's what I'm hoping Coach Diaz is doing. And if you look at the last 2 classes, there's a couple guys on that staff just like that, and on the roster who are like that.
We see a whole lot of hashtag live squats, so we appreciate everybody being here live. And if you miss any of the content, of course, you just wait for this video to post, and then you go back and you can watch what you missed. Our guy, Mr. HD, has certainly got his eye on Markeith Williams, who he expects to commit later this week. So Markeith Williams is 17th rated safety in the country. Top 30 player in the state of Florida.
My
top
apologies.
250. No worries, Wholesome One. You take care of yourself. Top 250. The Wholesome One, as you can hear, is gutting this thing out. He is a gamer, and so he's gutting this thing out for us. So Markeith Williams, top 50 national player out of Orlando. He visited Ohio State and Nebraska here in June, and according to Mr. HD, he's going to make an announcement sometime this week. That's according to Mr. HD. We appreciate you being here. We don't know if that I'm just going by the live chat comment right there. We do know, though, that Dante Lucas just a little bit later today. So for those of you on the Rewatch Squad, you're going to know this news already. But for those
Right.
of us right now, 3 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, in just about an hour and a half, Dante Lucas is going to decide between going far, far away from home or staying fairly close to home.
Right. And that's the weird part is he currently plays ball in Arizona.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. That's right.
yeah,
Yep.
he lives in Arizona, so that's where the connection to Oregon, because West Coast. Now his connection to Miami is he is of Haitian descent, and that's where our coach Ish, and who's of Haitian descent, who is the strikers coach, outside linebackers coach from Texas A&M that came over to be an on-field coach here at Miami. They have a great relationship that was built when he was at Texas A&M. So if there was not for that great relationship, then we would not be in conversation with uh, Anthony Lucas. So uh, we're gonna see what comes to the table, and he's a defensive end, and he to me he's a defensive tackle, and everybody there that watching, but he wants to be a defensive end. So that's what the conversation is with Lucas. Is it Oregon allowing him to or say that they're going to allow him to play defense end, and then he gets up there and he eventually goes to defensive tackle, as opposed to Miami keeping it real with him from Jump Street? It's like, man, once you come and be a part of our strength and conditioning program, you're going to be a DT. You're going to be 285, bro. You're going to be 290 within the first 6 months or so. So that's what's going on with Lucas. I think he's going to go with Oregon. I hope he picks Miami. Again, I'm not trying to be negative Nancy, but that's just how I see it cutting right now. That doesn't mean that the recruitment is over. It's just as of right now, I believe he's gonna lean with Oregon. Now, if he picks the U, I'll be excited. I'll make my Canes update commitment video about it. But as of right now, I think he's gonna go ahead and pick Oregon.
14th rated defensive lineman in the country, top 85 on the national scene, number one rated player in the state of Arizona, Anthony Lucas. Wholesome One, thanks for keeping me on the straight and narrow with that. I don't know why Dante Lucas came out of my mouth. I have no idea.
No, that's I think Dante Lucas is the guard from Tallahassee.
Yeah, that
Who's from Miami, who's always pouting and crying because we kick his butt all the time. What a blessing. Oh, you love to see it. You love to see it. Oh man. I
got our
probably even sound different. You know, when you're nasal up, your
Oh,
voice
you
is
can
different.
tell. You can tell.
It's pretty different.
It's all good. The knowledge is still working though. It just comes out a little bit
Nasally.
slower and a little bit different. That's all right. That's all right. We still get the knowledge. Momo's looking for a little knowledge here. He thinks that this is going to make a world of difference. Another year under Rhett Lashley, having the entire offseason going into 2021.
I agree, man. The weird part about a lot of these answers is like in recruiting. That the soliloquy I went on with recruiting, that doesn't just happen in Miami. That's just recruiting, period. The second and third year in the system, when it comes to any offense or defensive scheme, is supposed to get better. But if you look at what Coach Rat Lashley does year two in his systems, no matter where he was at Auburn, at SMU, I think he only did 1 year at UConn, so he didn't get a year two. So you got to think, he didn't even get a full calendar year. Last year was a COVID year, and he averaged 31 and a half points. So I think with the return, and the only person you lose on your offense is your tight end. The whole offensive line comes back. Your whole wide receiver core comes back. Your whole running back core comes back. But most importantly, you built an entire offseason where your QB unfortunately was hurt. So it was all a mental game from him, to the point where you allowed him to call the second half of the spring game. Okay. So that means you all are on a very good level playing field mentally. So what I'm hoping for is that De'Aaron King can go out there, whether it be versus Bama, versus UNC, Central Connecticut, Southern Baptist, Eastern Esterling, wherever. he can go out there and he can audible at the line of scrimmage, because we watched a lot last season where De'Aaron King is literally sitting there watching these two outside blitzers stand there, and we're running read option to that side. He's looking to the sideline like he wants to change the play, but Coach Red Lashley did not allow him to make audibles at the line of scrimmage. It doesn't make any sense that you're starting QB at the Power 5 level, and you and your OC are not on the same page to the point where you can make play calls at the LOS. Now, is 2020 different? Absolutely. 2020 is something that I pray none of us ever have to experience again, because it just was such a different year as far as off the football field and in life. And they didn't get an opportunity to be able to build that chemistry and share the knowledge of the offense enough to where we can step on that football field and really play as a well-oiled machine together. Now, we were blessed to have this entire last full spring. I mean, heck, you only had 5 practices in spring and then had to install an offense over Zoom. Now, again, everyone else had to do the same thing. So I'm not making an excuse for Coach Red Lashley and for the offensive production in some of our big games last year. All I'm saying is I think that being the foundation is going to be a big step up, because having those 1 or 2 plays that allow us to score touchdowns against Pitt and just blowing out Duke because we're just way more better than Duke. But then we line up against Clemson and we're stalemate. We're frozen on offense and can't move the ball. Okay, UNC should have been a shootout, but only one offense showed up for the most part. Yeah, our offense did some things, but 62-26, 62-45, 62-51, okay. 62-26. So when we were on our biggest stages, the offense had not gelled together just yet. And I think that there's going to be a big jump offensively this year.
Folks, please like the video, share the videos out on social media. And yeah, somebody commented in the live chat that this is the Wholesome One's a new time. So make note of it. Every Tuesday at 1 Eastern, we'll be here with the Wholesome One. And again, there could also possibly be scheduling changes from week to week because people are busy. So that means look out for those notifications because they will never lie. Hopefully they make it to you, but they should have the right information. So we can't help that. They sometimes, by the wizardry of YouTube, sometimes they make it, sometimes they don't. But the notifications will let you know when we're going live. But we should be here every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern time for the most part.
So
Henry,
I have a question for you, Mark, before we get to this one. You spent a lot of time talking to us, Paul, Cam, me, Brad, all type of people. And I like asking you this because you respect Miami, of course, but I mean, probably wouldn't go as far as saying you like Miami, but because you want to be impartial as someone who has a neutral stage that allows all these people to be able to come and speak on your platform. So with the way that Miami in the last 2 months that we've been discussing, going from 1 or 2 commits to now 8 commits and very high quality people. From your perspective, do you like this approach? I mean, I know you spend time with the Tallahassee guys, and every 2 days they got some 4-star commit to their program. It just feels different because we experienced the Al Goldenism. We've seen teams like Tennessee and South Carolina, Ole Miss be like really weird, big front-running recruiting type programs, and then come December, it's like they're not nowhere near where they were before. From your perspective, do you like this approach that Coach Diaz and his staff has been doing at Miami?
And with Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze, we actually found out a couple of years later why they were able to wrap up that kind of recruiting class. They had a couple of those recruiting classes, but they had like 5 number 1 players on that that one recruiting class.
When all of them were publicly like, yeah, I was going to Bama, but I got that deposit from Ole Miss. So.
Yeah. Laquan
Yeah,
Treadwell, Robert Kimdichie, that class.
yeah,
Laramie Tunsil. All right. When it comes to Miami's approach, as I prepare for these shows, I'm not going to say that I sit here and do 3 hours of research, but I look around to try to see if there's anything interesting out there and obviously not miss any news and not
right.
completely rely on the wholesome one to bring everything, but to say, okay, I saw this, this, and that. I looked at something today that was showing that was backing up something that's brought up here a number of times, and I've heard you speak to, and that's the and Cam really spoke to it last weekend regarding being the recruiting champion in the summer and
Right.
how, in particular, Al Golden was the master of having the number one recruiting class for the next year. While the
Yes.
focus is on 22, and that's the one that's straight ahead, of course, there's work being done toward 23, and Al Golden was the master of being the recruiting master of the next recruiting class. And by the time we got there, it mostly crumbled. So this it was an article on 247 Sports. I don't know who wrote it or compiled the numbers, but they gave a very good summary of what those decommitment numbers have looked like through the years. So they must have taken a certain point of time, added up the commits, added up the decommits, and put some kind of percentage on it. But basically to show that Miami has had way too many decommits compared to your average school across the country. Why they can't maintain those relationships. And we're not pinning that on Manny Diaz
Right.
and this staff. We're talking about through the years, other coaching staffs.
Right.
I don't know where it actually, the Mark Richt numbers weren't good, but they weren't horrible. He improved it
Right.
from where we were with Al Golden in particular. And then to see the way the Manny Diaz classes have stayed together, and especially last year's, that he was able to keep those commitments. And thus far this year, yeah, they had a couple of guys drop off. They weren't necessarily the best commits. Juan
Uh-huh.
Lee would be one. They were in that mid tier or lower tier of commits for the most part. So there was at this point, we're sitting here at the beginning of August, and we need to make it 4 more months to December that the results, whatever they're doing, they seem to have more credibility with the commits to be able to hang on to them throughout the entire process.
Yes. I I've like I said, I've lived it, man. I've watched it, I've lived it, and it hurt. The biggest thing was Coach Golden just always took the commitments. It wasn't like we were recruiting so much better. It's just we had the bells and whistles early on. And if you're a sophomore, which is the earliest you can commit, or a junior, and you come in, it was like they would sell you on the whole, you can be the change here, and they would commit early. So you would have young men as early as sophomores in high school committing to a school and committing to a program. So, for example, we're in 2021. If Coach Golden was here, we would have top five 2022 and probably, well, we're in 2022 right now, technically, recruiting class. So 2022 would be so right now. 2023 would be top five, and 2024 would be number one because we would be the only school with five commits as sophomores. Okay, that's what Coach Golden did, and people could bash him for it, but obviously he did whatever he thought to keep his job, and it didn't work out. And it took a bit to filter that mindset out of the program. It took a while for us not doing that, and we wheeled it back in, wheeled it, and by 2019 we kind of stopped taking early commits, unless it's a family member of a current player or something like that. But that was the last time we took those kind of thought processes with guys that early on in their commitment. But the reason why I bring that up is just, like I said, you speak to so many people and you hear all these different approaches to different things. I mean, USC, Oregon, Nebraska, Ohio, the three, two guys in the state of Florida, because I don't know if you have a Gators guy anymore. I know you should do SEC. You had a whole panel, but that was years ago now at this point. But I was just wondering where you were thinking about.
Yeah, it seems to have improved in regards to being able to recruit through the entire process, maintain the relationship, maintain the contact, continue to sell the young man on what's being accomplished and what's being done. We've got a couple of questions and comments that are coming in, and I'll combine them because they all pertain to the wide receiver position. You get asked this every week, and I'm sure you get asked this constantly on your channel about the wide receiver. So somebody had asked, and I apologize because I just wanted to make sure that I was catching other comments, who it was that asked about, who's going to be the odd man out. We keep talking about and asking questions concerning who are going to be the starting wide receivers, who are going to be the next four, that sort of thing. But in terms of who's going to get left out of this rotation. And then also there was a comment about Mark Pope in particular that I thought was interesting, that leads me to kind of this overall question as you assess the wide receivers. Yes, who could get left out? Who's the most vulnerable there? But also, in assessing these wide receivers, do we believe that they're being put in the right positions? Whether it be the X, the Y, the Z, the slot, in terms of tailoring them to their role.
I believe we're getting close to that mark. I think for the first time in a while, it isn't just you play receiver at Miami. You got guys who are being put in the right position. Like Mark Pope is now getting majority of his reps out of the slot. Mike Harley and Xavier Restrepo are getting majority of their reps out of the slot. Michael Redding and Dazzler Worsham and Romello Brinson are getting outside. On the other outside, you got guys. D. Wiggins is just on the team at this point. You got Rambo and Keyshawn Smith and Jacoby George, those kind of guys doing well. And Jeremiah Payton is still kind of up in the air with that guy. But Rashard Smith is getting that slot. So we've kind of divvied it up to where it's like, hey, you three are X, you three are Z, you four are slot. And for the longest, it was like, oh, no, you come here, you play Miami, we cross-train you and everything. Okay, I can understand that viewpoint. But while you're building a foundation, you need to have a young man be able to focus almost 100% on one thing. And yes, there'll be a difference if you got, that's why I said almost 100%. So if there's a slot receiver like Mike Harley, he has experience on the outside and the inside. And of course, he's going to get some snaps on the outside. But if he wants to play on Sundays, he got to play in the interior. At 5'9", 182, you're going to be on the inside. It's just that simple. Now, if you were maybe like 5'10", 5'11", 205, 210, and you got some width to you, some muscle mass, then you could go outside and get off the press coverage of the 6'2" corners that are made now. And they're just made on trees at this point. Everybody got 6'2" corners now. But the reason why wide receiver is such a big conversation point is it's just been so disappointing, Mark. And you could be, especially when you had LSU 2019, and it just looked like everybody in the world was wide open. Or if you've watched any Oklahoma team from like 2016 on, you're just like, how are these people so wide open?
And hold the ball.
Yeah, they get catch the ball. Just catch the ball. Mark, it's to the point where we used to praise getting first downs and motions and stuff, man. Like we still had a fullback on our roster as early as like 2019, man. It's just so much stuff, and I'm happy for where we are as a program now, Mark. But Doug, it was bad. Like it was kind of unbearable sometimes to watch.
And the one thing you brought up about different roles and different positions and what's good for the young man today versus what might be prepping him for the NFL, and you bring up Mike Harley in particular, is one small correlation you can make between the wide receivers and the offensive line, and it's nowhere close to the same in regards to the coordination and the cooperation and everything along the cohesion for the offensive line. But in one small way, there's a similarity in that if you start to get some injuries, or if you just have a situation where you're going four wide,
Right.
do you go with your four best wide? Just if these are the four best wide receivers in terms of route running, catching the ball, getting open, all those things, or we're going to bypass this guy and I'm reaching to the fifth guy because he's better in the slot versus, and making those determinations.
Yeah. Well, Devin Ray, man, you keep bringing this one question up every week. I've explained this already. The physicality of the interior offensive line. We've answered that question 3 weeks in a row. I'm going to say it one more time. We've upgraded from 302-pound Jakai, 301-pound Gainer, 298-pound DJ Scaife, to 335-pound Navon Donaldson, 310-pound center. Just said his name. Just slipped my mind. I just said his name.
Oops, sorry.
No, you good. You good. I got it.
I'm
Corey Gaynor.
I'm looking
and
for
left guard, 325-pound Jalen Rivers. Okay, buddy. That's the best answer I could give you until we actually get on the football field and we see it. All right, man. I'm not trying to pick on you or disrespect you by any means, bro. But I've answered that question 3 straight weeks with the exact same answer. Please stop asking that damn question. Thank you.
So is this somewhat of a different question because somebody else asked this about your confidence, because I know that it hasn't been there in previous years, but your confidence about too deep along the offensive line?
Oh, now that I'm excited about. Let's go down to too deep together then. So at left tackle, you have two guys who have started at left tackle. One of them has played almost all the positions, excluding center. And that's Zion Nelson, the penciled in starter. Right. Then behind him, you have John Campbell. John Campbell has started games at left tackle, left guard, right tackle. Like he's played all over the fronts. Okay, so that too deep is very, very exciting. Now at left guard, you have Jakai Clark, who has been very good for us as far as a center who had to move to guard because of seniority with Corey Gaynor, and he's a sixth best offensive lineman, so therefore he was able to come and win a job at left guard as a freshman. Now, due to injury, Jakai Clark won't be a part of the rotation too soon. So now the conversation goes to Usman Traore, a JUCO transfer, and now a redshirt freshman, and Jalen Rivers at 6'5", 325 pounds. So again, that to Devin Ray, the answer of the interior physicality and moving people. There's your guy, Jalen Rivers. He's a mauler, but he's also a very good technician. But just based simply on his film, his aggression, his downhill blocking ability, as opposed, I mean, when you're borderline 6'6", your blocking ability is a little different than a 6'2", 304-pound guy. It's just based on what you bring to the table as far as how you would have to move someone. Okay, if I got 4 inches on you and I got 30 pounds on you, I might be just a little bit different in how I'm gonna move folks. The too deep at center really goes 3 at this point because Corey Gaynor, this is his last year, but Jakai is a true center. I think he's the best center on the team. Cleveland Reed, former 4-star offensive guard, moved to center, And then you have the 3-star Ryan Rodriguez at that position who can sit and wait. We probably won't see him to 2023, 2024 in that time. At right guard, you have Navon Donaldson, hopefully coming back at his old play back in 2017 when he's an All-American. He's backed up by um, John Campbell and also Usman Traore on that right guard. And right tackle, we're waiting to see somebody take that position by the horns because at the end of the day, you have 7-year guy, Jared Williams, at 6'7", 310 pounds. Hey, you're supposed to be going into, at this point, you're 3 years into your rookie contract in the NFL. So you should be showing us something, but he's not a people mover. He's kind of one of those guys that's a finesse blocker. And, there's different ways to skin a cat. It's just like, all right. I just don't, 6'7", 318-pound finesse run blocker? That doesn't sound like something that should happen. And then you have DJ Scaife at 6'3", 306, who, like I've said before, he's a center at best, but we've been having to play him at guard and tackle, and it just hasn't been working out the best for him. But that's the two deep. But then we also have guys like Chris Washington, who's 6'8", 295 pounds, and a guy like Michael McLaughlin, 6'8", 308 pounds. Okay, both of those guys are red shirt freshmen who came to us around 260, 270 within a full year in the program, and now half of an off season, both gained over 40 pounds. Okay, that's big time, and that means we're getting it done on the offensive line. We're getting it done strength and conditioning. We're getting it done nutrition, and we talked about this last week when we broke down the fact that strength and conditioning and nutrition are the only ones licensed to be around our players all year round. So if those people are not doing a really good job at their job, then we're going to see the results that we've seen at Miami, where we're a 7-8 win kind of program. But when you upgrade the kind of coaches and nutrition and strength and conditioning people, you magically get results. You see what happens when you go for quality instead of being a cheapskate.
When you bring up somebody who's 6'7", 350, were those the measurements? 6'7", 350?
The only person we have anything close to that is Navon. The person I was talking about, Chris Washington. Yeah, he's 6'7", 6'8", and he's about 310 somewhere in there.
Oh, okay. So
Navon's the only one that's 350.
Okay, when you bring up somebody and your evaluation is that they're a finesse blocker, I just think as an offensive lineman, it's almost like saying we have a quarterback and they can't throw. Now we know that there are quarterbacks who have guns and there are other quarterbacks who they're capable throwers. They just don't have a laser rocket arm, but they can make all the throws or most of the throws, but they can still throw the ball. You don't have it's like inherent to the position. You can't have a quarterback who can't throw the ball. You can't have a wide receiver who can't run. Yes, some guys are burners.
Can't catch.
They can't catch. That because that's the essence of the position. You could be the greatest route runner, be the fastest guy in the world, but if you can't catch, well, that's what you have to do every time the ball's thrown to you is obviously catch it. Exactly. That would be the epitome of what I'm talking about. So when you say somebody's those physical dimensions and they're an offensive lineman and they rely on finesse, I would think that you want all physical mindset at offensive line. And then if they learn the skills and the abilities to, in certain situations, be more of a finesse blocker, that's one thing. But the core, the foundation should be them being a physical blocker.
Mark, it's tough, man. It's tough to know some of that stuff. But then, we also sit back and we have to think, what system do some of these players come from? When he was playing at Houston in the American Conference, I mean, yeah, physicality is a part of it, but they were a spread pass happy kind of system at Houston. Um, he wasn't out there mauling people and slamming down on three techniques. But now he transfers to Miami, and we want a power spread RPO kind of system. And that's why early on in the spring, this dude who could have his doctorate degree by now was losing his job to somebody 4 inches shorter than him and 10 to 15 pounds lighter than him, because DJ Scaife will go out there and slam down with three technique or try his hardest, try to block a defensive end one-on-one and run blocking. Not just try to get in between them so he doesn't touch my running back. Like, that's just the type of play that he was bringing to the table. And no sorry to him as a person, but that stuff is just unacceptable.
I love the description. I can't stop laughing when I get your description on the finesse blocking.
Oh man.
Oh, so we've got going down a completely different path. We've got Sigmund. Thank you so much for the super chat contribution. We always appreciate that. So Sigmund is asking, what is your thought about Clemson and Florida State's interest in the SEC, and will it hurt Miami's future? So
here's my thing.
Okay.
I think everyone has an interest in joining the SEC, especially after what happened with Texas and Oklahoma. Again, I know there's people on the West Coast who got their panties in a wad, and everyone forgets about us. And when are we gonna get? Your team suck. Okay, no one cares. Number one. Number two, geographically, Clemson and Tallahassee make a lot of sense. They're kind of right there in SEC country. Now, if Tallahassee were to join, they need another Vanderbilt. They need another Kentucky to kind of slap around a little bit. And yes, would they get a lot of big money added to their program to join and things of that nature? Yes. Do I really see it affecting Miami to a certain extent? I think I would be dumb to say no, because if you put that SEC patch, then it does have a certain psychological view on a lot of recruits. Like, oh, well, I get to play the SEC. Cool. I've come on here and spoken about the fact that if those two left, would I want Miami to join? A part of me says yes. A part of me would love to stay in the ACC and run the ACC and have us in North Carolina be the two best teams in the ACC, and we figure it out. And let's say you go 3 of the next 4 years winning the ACC as Miami, and then 5-6 years from now, then you apply to join. Once you actually build a program, because hopping into that gauntlet of a schedule to try to build a program, I think wouldn't make any sense in my opinion. So we'll see what happens with that, but just from the way that we play ball and the type of players that we recruit, I think it would be a really good thing for us to handle business in the ACC. I mean, at the end of the day, Clemson and Tallahassee can say they've won the ACC. We can't just yet. So I think we got a lot to handle in the ACC first.
So if Clemson and Florida State would leave the ACC, it would not be as critical or as damaging as Oklahoma and Texas leaving the Big 12 for a couple different reasons. One would be the ACC has 4 more teams. So just from a quantity standpoint, you've got a 12-team league still intact if those two leave, instead of the Big 12 now being down to the Big 8. And they're really scrambling because Oklahoma and Texas meant more to that league than any 2 programs in the country mean to any league. So the damage done, Oklahoma, Texas leaving the Big 12 far more than Clemson and Florida State. That said, it's a huge loss. It's the best program in the conference, and it's what has been the best program in the conference 2014 or 15, and prior to that most of the time. But it's been a while. And right now, if you're just looking at on the field production, Florida State's the 10th or 11th best program in the ACC right this second, something like that. but we know what they're capable of doing. We know what the history is. We know what the facilities are. We know, probably more important than anything, is where they're located in the state of Florida. So you got players on every corner, like droves of them. So you should be able to recruit and rebuild. So for Florida State, it's more about, in a similar way to Texas, more about potential and who they've been and who they should be, but not who they are right now. And Texas is better than Florida State. So let me clear that up. I'm not saying they're on the same level, but Texas is down too, but they're not down as far as Florida State by any stretch. And Clemson's the best program. It would leave Miami in a position where, from a positive standpoint, like the Wholesome one outlined, they're in a prime position to own the ACC or be one of the main players because they're one of the two best teams left. But it hurts the conference overall. And then you would be looking at a situation where you would think, if the SEC swallowed up those two and became a 18-team conference with that many teams, then the other conferences would have to start moving around and figuring out how to counter that, because then you've got an 18-team conference that's just so much better than everybody else that there have to be agreements made elsewhere to form super leagues. There would just have to be.
I mean, like I said, the Big Eight right now should be the first 16 team or first 18. I would absorb everyone in the AAC and just try to turn it into, a really big power conference and try to go from there. I mean, people have kind of calmed down, but I remember the last two times we were on, it was like, they're going to be the first 32-team league. They're going to go take USC and Oregon and Ohio State and Michigan. Oh my God! It's like, nah, I don't think it's going to be like that. But whatever, people have their issues with the SEC. Mark, it was so bad. I was even called a Confederate because I was happy about the fact that Texas and OU joined the SEC. And I think that it's going to be some good football games. So there it is. How that sounds out loud.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, man.
I am not going to read this comment, but I am going to take note of this. It's just humorous. So this has been going on forever, basically. This is our guy, Chris, who came after me a few weeks ago concerning a video that I produced like 2 years ago. I posted this video like 2 years ago about the 1984 national championship and just that it was a disputed national championship. And I just gave a bunch of different scenarios and reasons why. And ever since that, Chris has, and I'm not exaggerating, has left between 30 and 40 comments that are like paragraphs long about the 1984 national championship. And so this comment, whatever he's talking about, 1985, obviously has nothing to do with Miami. And so we will move on. All right. But there was a comment left about, and
I see plenty of Pope slander. Jeez, man.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. I mean, yeah, I know he hurt some of our hearts, but with his play, goodness gracious, guys.
I always hesitate getting into these just in regards to this speculation about who's going to sign and who's going to commit in the next few weeks and all that, unless the particular player has announced on social media, I'm committing, like Anthony Lucas did Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. Just, I think we're here to talk ball, and I know people like to speculate, and that's part of the YouTube business, is a lot of conjecture and speculation, but I don't know, unless you got something about those particular players, starting with Shamar Stewart and the rest of them, on when they may.
I think the question is, do we have a realistic? So he's saying that we have a realistic stance of landing all four of these guys who are anywhere from high 4-star to 5-star guys. I believe, to answer your first part of what you're saying, yes, Miami has a realistic chance. Defensive end and safety in the Coach Manny Diaz defense, they are very productive. Very, very, very productive, right? So I understand that. I don't know if Miami really has a chance of landing all four of them, but I know Miami is in conversation with all four and hoping to get uh, a commitment and a solid pen and paper for at least three of those four. Okay. Marvin Jones Jr., I don't think so. Shamar Stewart, I believe, will come to Miami. Lucas, I've already said, I think goes to Oregon. And Nigel Lee Kelly, I think, comes to Miami. So my honest opinion is two out of the four will be Miami Hurricanes, and that will be the strong side defensive end in Shamar Stewart and the weak side defensive end in Nigel Lee Kelly. When it comes to Anthony Lucas, I think he commits to Oregon today, but I mean, I can come on here next week and be like, Mark, you can't do those cut ups and don't put out there that I said he was going to Oregon because he picked Miami, and people are going to say, oh, this idiot, and, whatever. That's cool. You have your opinion. But in my opinion, I think he's going to go to Oregon. Uh, that's just me. Um, and Marvin Jones Jr. It's just his dad's a Tallahassee legacy, even though his mom didn't go to Miami. I don't really know. It's kind of like a hands in the air with that one. We'll see.
Yeah, it's like when the season hits, I'll start making my predictions each week, and the predictions are there for people to enjoy for entertainment purposes. When I miss one, there's going to be a dozen people that are going to point out that I missed a prediction, and then I'm going to let them know, yeah, keep listening. I'm going to miss dozens more.
Exactly.
Once you find somebody who gets all their predictions right, uh, let me know who that person is. And number two, that's impossible. So it's just not going to happen. So anything else we got going here?
That's a good question about Coach Simpson. I
Yeah.
was more of a Coach Kulagowski guy. So Coach Kulagowski was the Miami Hurricanes defensive line coach 2016 and 17. Had guys like Joe Jackson and John Garvin and Chad Thomas and Trent Harris and RJ McIntosh and Kendrick Norton. I believe when he was our defensive line coach, there were 4 to 5 to 6 guys who played at a very high level, reckless abandon, hair on fire kind of defense. In 2018, when he departed for Alabama, we brought in Coach Jess Simpson. Now, there was a drop off in quality of play. You had a very young John Ford. You had Pat Bethel, who's a program guy. Gerald Willis at 24, still playing college ball, and Joe Jackson. And there was just Garvin had a real nice TFL season. I think he had 16 and a half TFLs. Gerald Willis was the talk of the town, but Joe Jackson took a big step back. Pat Bethel, John Ford took big steps back and didn't really do much. So I think that Coach Simpson is still very good, and I would dream to be on that level and be able to have the knowledge and the ability that he has to coach. But when it comes to Coach Jess Simpson, I think he's pretty good. But as far as having those guys play on the other side of the LOS, we're gonna see. We're gonna see. I'm very excited about it. He's coming from the professional ranks, so we're going to see what happens. But in the comparison of the two, as far as how they had those guys playing ball, in my opinion, I'm rolling with Coach Cool. And no, you're right, Dennis Lucas. That's why I started out by saying there was a big drop off in talent. Okay, so we're going to see. I'm not holding this against him. That's why it's the first time I'm bringing it up. Like I'm not attacking Coach Jess Simpson. I just think once we have the this year is going to be a big question mark to see how he has that defensive line playing. And Mark, or are we going to disengage from offensive linemen? I'm tired of seeing our defensive tackles or defensive ends bringing a running back down while the guard is still holding on to them and all three of them fall. We need to be defeating hands, attacking the outside shoulder of offensive tackles and offensive guards, completely getting rid of them, whether it's from the rip or swim. And we need to be making plays up on the backfield solo. So just that simple. Mark, you're muted, buddy. There you go.
There we go. It works better when the mic's on. Wholesome One Holloway right here on YouTube. That's what I was saying about 3 times there. Here it goes. Wholesome One Holloway. You can catch him right here on YouTube. Catch his live stream from last night and all the other videos that he's got available right there. And as it says down there at the ticker, scrolling at the bottom of the screen, you can join me on Patreon. And speaking of predictions, I will have my exclusive predictions right there. And we've got actually an announcement concerning Patreon a little bit later this week, but got to wrap up some details. And you Miami fans may have missed an announcement from last night that we will have some post-game every Miami game right here as well. So more details on that to follow, as well as Iowa, Oklahoma, Michigan, Florida State, Notre Dame. I should have went by conference. I would have remembered it a little bit better. Florida, Texas A&M, and an SEC show. So a lot of post-game coming, and we hope to have more. All right, man.
Post-game is intense, man. You either get two extremes. You get a real pissed off guest, or you get somebody who's really, really excited and happy and jumping up and down.
If you win, everybody thinks you're going to win the national championship. If you lose, it's the end of the world.
One more question before I leave.
Yeah.
Somebody said this crap on my channel last night, and it blew my mind, but whatever. What do you think does more for the University of Miami's football program? Beating Alabama first game of the season, or beating Clemson in the ACC championship at the end of the season?
What's more important?
Yeah, what does more for the University of Miami's football program?
I look at things in a practical way, and you have to win the ACC. That hasn't been done. They're the number 1 team in the league. Because if you tell me today that that Miami beat Clemson to win the ACC championship game, that's telling me a whole lot about the season. So basically, you're answering questions for me through the course of 12 games. Now, I don't know if Miami went 12-0 or they went 9-3, but I know that they at least went. Pretty sure they went 9-3.
Yeah, they would have
get
had
to the ACC championship game.
Correct. Yeah.
You know, certainly we saw Pitt make it at 7-5, so it's possible. But again, most likely they at least went 9-3, and they won the ACC championship against a team that most likely is going to be a top 5 to 10 team in the country. Versus, they could beat Alabama, still lose 3 games in the ACC, go 5-3 in the ACC. Go to an average bowl game, and nothing was really accomplished. So I will take, if I was a Miami fan, the Clemson ACC championship game win in a heartbeat.
Yeah, because we were having this debate, and this dude's like, "No, you beat Bama. That changes everything. Now you're gonna go 12-0," and I'm like, "Yeah, but one of those answers the other one doesn't." So the way that it was posed by a fan was, you win versus Bama, but you lose to Clemson in the ACC championship game. Or you lose to Bama, but you beat Clemson in the ACC championship game. So either way in those scenarios, we played both teams. But the question was, which one would it better benefit the program to win out of the two? And in my opinion, starting out would be that fake momentum stuff that we're seeing, and then you end up losing to Clemson, as opposed to you lose to Bama, but then you end out, which, let's also keep in mind.
Bless you.
Thank you. Keep in mind, too, championship week is a week or like 2 weeks before that's the first National Signing Day. And if Miami is on the stage holding up a trophy, I'm just saying, to me, it doesn't make any sense. But hey, it's cool. I mean, everybody, like I do have to understand that people are entitled to their opinions, and I respect their opinions. I don't have to agree. And at the end of the day, when it comes to that question, I think Miami, and I don't like doing hypothetical questions, but Miami having that ability uh, to hoist a championship, something we haven't done since '01. Okay, even though it might be a conference championship, I think that just takes it speaks dividends to what the program can do moving forward. Even if you do lose the bowl, or heck, Mark, let's be honest, you in the ACC, you might be a playoff team. Oh,
Agreed.
man. Oh, man.
All right, everyone. We will see you back here next Tuesday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. That's our new time. But again, please subscribe, hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live, because sometimes we have to switch up based on scheduling. So again, Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. In the meantime, check out the Wholesome One's latest work.
Yep.
All right,
Thank
man.
you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. God bless. You all have a great rest of your day, and go Canes. I'm about to go take